Hallelujah. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good mid-morning, good mid-afternoon, wherever you are, whomever you are. Welcome back to Voice in the Wilderness. I am your host, Maxi. So, we are in this study titled The 10 Words. Been doing it for a little while. And to be basic, it's commentary dealing with the 10 commandments, the 10 matters, the 10 laws, the 10 words. My title is the 10 words. And people know it as different things. 10 commandments. I think most popularly known as the 10 commandments. In these sessions, what I am attempting to do, or what I'm doing, is targeting words, right? And Hebraically, words could be one word, like a single word, or it could be more than one word, right? In Hebrew, there's one word there are some words that's a plural word. Just like we have they and them, in Hebrew has the same, right? We started from the whole idea about the whole concept, the whole philosophy, if you will, about a word. What is a word? What does that have to do with anything? A word. Well, as we have pointed out here many times, it has to do with everything. Because it's the only way you, listener, could hear or know or understand what I'm saying. Right? So we've even gone to the extent of saying that words are tantamount to life. You can't live without words. If you could imagine, God forbid somebody is paralyzed from the head down, or the neck down, or whatever, right? That person will be a body on a cot in a hospital, hopefully. Maybe not. Maybe they home at their kid's house, at their own house, or whatever. It's interesting that in spite of that person lying there, can't move, can't talk, it's interesting to note that the person lying there is counting on somebody to say something. Outside of that, they'll be like in solitary confinement, where they'll probably be subjected to their own thoughts. In this case, they can't talk. So they can have a conversation with themselves, like verbally, like using air, but they will have a conversation with themselves in their mind. They could still be rambling back and forth in their mind, as we all do, even we who bring words out of our mouths. So yes, words are tantamount to life. As a matter of fact, the Proverbs say, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who are seduced by it. Gotta be careful, right? So this is what we've been doing. We started off just going off about words in general. And then we brought that in to the 10 words specifically from Exodus chapter 20 that God spoke. As we have reiterated over and over again, which we're going to do very quickly. The writer of Exodus 20 said or wrote, God spoke all these words. He nullified, he excluded, he deleted all other entities. He wrote that it was God who said. One of the things that, as I was preparing for this session, one of the things I thought of about was how little we pay attention to words. It's amazing. We use words, and some of us, like Ben Shapiro, Russell Brand, and a plethora of other guys and girls, they talk like very fast. And so they could get 100 words out in, I don't know, I've never timed them, but really, really fast, right? Almost like a race car, so to speak, from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds or whatever. I don't know how much thought they gave to the words that they use. I think I'm wary, and we all have to be wary of people who speak really fast. At least that's just from my perspective. I have nothing against nobody, but people who speak really, really, really fast, I have to be wary of what they're saying. You have to be wary of what everybody says, but at the same time, it's harder to keep track, right, of a thought that somebody who's speaking 1,000,000 words per second. It's hard to stay on track with that person. You see what I'm saying? That person is easy to just jump off different ideals, conflate ideas and ideals, because they're so quick-tongued. Me, on the other hand, I like slow, methodical. I like to try to understand what I'm saying. A lot of times, what we call in the believing realm, you go with the flow, you go with the spirit. You think God is leading you a certain way, so you spend less time thinking and more time just speaking. But for me, I find even that hard to do. Not that I don't do it, not that I will not do it, but for me, it's a little bit more challenging, because of the fact that I recognize that I like to have a grasp of the thought before the words come out your mouth. As a matter of fact, I would even venture to say that's a spiritual principle, in that James says, be slow to speak, but be quick to listen. So that being said, it dawned on me. It's something that I continually recognize, that most people don't pay much attention to the words they're using, right? Most people just use words to direct an ideal, or to put forth an ideal, right? That's one. The other thing that I recognize is that there are a lot of people who have the idea that they want to do good, right? A lot of people have this idea that they want to do good in the world, do good in their family, do good in the neighborhood, do good in society. A lot of people, most people, I would say. Um, and then there is a lot of those people who think they know what good is. They completely ignore who good is. They have no idea sometimes of, they refuse to believe that goodness, no one, right? No one, that includes me, no one could do good, could be good without first admitting, without first coming to the notion, the idea, the ideal that God is good. And because he is the epitome of good, I cannot be good if I don't venture to know him, if I don't venture to believe him, if I don't venture to understand him, right? Some people might think you can't understand God. God is infinite. We are definite or definite, right? We have an end, and he doesn't. We had a beginning, he didn't, and so we are lesser, which is something that we have to grapple with, which is something that we have to embrace. You can't do good. And I want you to listen. When I say good, I'm talking about what God considers good, not what I think is good, not what you think is good, but what God sees is good, what God qualifies as good, right? We look no further than what we talked about in the last subject. And just in case you don't know, we will be going to the scripture in a minute. This is my opening remarks. This is my opening foray, if you will, into the wilderness of thought and ideals. Last week we read in the gospel where Yeshua, Jesus, the one whom most believers, all believers believe, came to the earth to save mankind, to die on behalf of mankind, to liberate mankind from the clutches of sin. He said, this man said to another man who called him good. And if I could remember, I think it's Matthew 19. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll go there just to see. Matthew 19, let's see. Yes. Thank you, Father. Matthew 19, verse 16, in the Brit Hadashah, in the renewed covenant, in the what people call today the New Testament, Matthew chapter 19, verse 16 reads as follows. Behold, one came to him, Yeshua, and said, Good Rabbi, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? This person is obviously concerned about his deeds. He's obviously concerned about things that he needs to be doing. He's obviously concerned about living in the eternity, right? And he is concerned about living, being in eternity on the good side. And let me just say here, parenthetically, that we will all live in eternity. Some of us will live in eternity with God on the good side, and some of us will live in eternity without God on the bad side. All right? Just to put it simply. So this person is concerned with living in eternity on the good side, because this question is all about good. What is good? Good, Rabbi, what good thing shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? We all would testify. We would run around the church. We would jump up and down. We would all profess that Yeshua of Nazareth, Jesus the Messiah, Yeshua the HaMashiach, he was a good rabbi. He was a good man who walked the earth. Listen to what he responded. Listen to not what he said. Listen to how he responded. This is Yeshua's response. Matthew 19, verse 17. He said unto him, Yeshua said unto the person who asked the question, what good thing shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? And Yeshua said to him, firstly, why do you call me good? Okay? Why? There is a note in my translation here, and I just clicked to the note, and it says that the MT, right, which is a translation, and the TR and the NU, which are all translations, read this verse as follows, or these lines as follows. Why do you ask me about what is good? Right? Which is another way, I guess, we have two aspects of answering this question. One is, why do you call me good? Wait a second. Why are you calling me good? How do you know that I am good? You follow? On the other hand, the question, the response to the question is, why do you ask me about good? About what is good? What have I done? What do you know of me or about me to consider me an authority in answering the question about what is good? See? So it really doesn't matter how you frame the question that the gentleman asks, whether he asks him about what is good, or whether he call him good rabbi. The response is what we look at to the question, to the issue. And Yeshua's response is, no one. I don't know. I don't qualify. I am not going to put myself in the category. I am not going to qualify myself as being one who can define what good is. Woo! I wish I could get an amen, as how the preachers used to say. Yeshua, who all of Christianity and all of believingdom understands to be the epitome of good. After all, Paul says that he was so good that he became obedient to the cross, obedient even to the death of the cross, And so, being that obedient, God had resurrected him from the dead and highly established him and gave him a name that is above every name. That's how good this Yeshua was. However, this Yeshua says, why do you call me good? Or, why do you think I am the authority to tell you what is good? There is no one good except one. And the good Yeshua, the awesome Yeshua, who has the name that's above every name, who bled and died for us all, this immaculately good Yeshua honored his Father as the commandment that we discussed last week or week before talked about. Honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long in the earth. And took the weight, if you will, the weight of honor, if you will, off of himself and put it on the Father. Oh no, sir, you have it all wrong. There is no one good but one. That one is Jehovah Elohim. Then this Yeshua turns to the crux of the matter, to the source of the question, if you will. What good thing shall I do that I may enter eternal life? And in response to that question, Yeshua says these words. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. And in the opening of this session, I made a declaration that I'm realizing more and more that we don't pay attention to words. We don't listen well. We don't hear ourselves when we speak. We don't, there's this thing, we want to read so fast. And reading is awesome. I'm not saying don't read. But I was having a conversation with a young lady this week, and every time she has lunch, she's with a book, and because she's an avid reader, right? Here's the thing, and there's nothing wrong with being an avid reader. I think I wish that I could read that much, right? She had a goal of 45 books in a year. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only 52 weeks in a year. That means it takes her just over 1 week to read a book, right? Which, depending on the book you're reading, is not a lot. If the book have 150 pages, sure, right? And it's awesome and phenomenal. But when we read 45 books in a year, what are we doing? What are we saying? With all these words. And yes, no putting down. When the more you read, your vocabulary expands, your thought, your mind opens up. You put yourself in a better position, in a more advantageous position. Because you have information. But I want to say something Keith Johnson says a lot. Information without inspiration is just information. Well, I don't think Keith Johnson said that. I'm a Keith too. That's what I say. I think Keith Johnson says information information along with inspiration will bring revelation. Something like that. Keith, you know what I'm talking about, right? But if you fill your soul with information and you don't have inspiration and revelation, that information is good for nothing, right? You will become a sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal, as Paul describes in the 15th chapter of, 15th or 12th chapter of Corinthians, right? You know a lot of words, but you talk a lot, say a lot of words, but it's not going to amount to anything, right? There's no coming against anybody who reads a lot. I'm just saying, reading a lot alone, just reading a lot, you will only get that. But if you read a lot with inspiration, hopefully that inspiration coming from God. If you read a lot with inspiration, hopefully you'll get revelation that comes also from God. Right? But none of those things will matter if you don't believe there is a God, if you don't believe in God, or if your belief is stemmed in some way, because a lot of people's belief is stemmed. In other words, they believe from here to the wall, and that's it. They believe they're not gonna go any further. They don't want to go any further, because going further puts them at jeopardy. There are many things, and this is driving us into the topic for today. There are many things in the biblical narrative that we don't understand. There are many things about the biblical passages that we don't understand. There are many things in the biblical narrative that we don't agree with. There are many things taking place within the pages of the Bible that we don't agree with. We can't stand it. Why? It shouldn't be like that. It should be like this. There are countless things. And so, to avoid not believing God totally, a lot of people stem their belief. I'm just going to believe God up to a certain point. After that, it's on me. I'm going to do things my way. You see what I'm saying? And we could see that playing out in every facet of life, denominationally, congregationally, communitarially, governmentally. We could see those things playing out, right? Every day, we could see them playing out. And we have to understand, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Right? If you say you believe God, if you say you believe there is a God, if you say you believe in God, then the idea is to believe him all the way. That was Abram's mentality. Right? And that's one of the reasons why God chose Abram. It probably is not the only reason. It probably is the biggest reason. If we read Genesis 18, we see there, should I hide what I'm getting ready to do from my friend Abram? Because I know that he is going to rule his house. He is going to govern his family in the ways of Jehovah. I know what his intention is about how he governs his family. And because I know that, I really like him. Another person God really liked was Enoch, right? And we don't know why. We don't have much clues. We have this one statement in Genesis 4 or 5 or 6 or no, I don't think it's in 6. I can't remember. Somewhere in Genesis, between 4 and 6 or 7 or 8, we read the line that Enoch walked with God and then he was no more. That's the one line we read about Enoch's relationship with God. And as you know, if you have listened to any one of our teachings, that's one of the things that has fascinated me reading the scripture. What kind of person was Enoch? How was his demeanor for God to like him so much that God is like, I ain't leaving you here on this earth for one more moment. I'm taking you with me. And the things that surround that ideal is, what did his wife do? What did his wife say? What happened to the kids? What did the kids say? How did they take that? What did God tell the wife? What happened? Did he tell the kids? We don't know. It's a fascinating situation. But according to the scripture, It happens. It happened. So, we will find that it's our belief in God or our non-belief in God or our half belief in God or quarter or three quarters, whatever, wherever your faith is, whatever your belief system can regurgitate, or whatever stand you can make for him. It is that foundation that you stand on when you read the scripture. And it's on that foundation that you build whatever you need to build off of. So if you halfway believe God, you are going to read the scripture and you're going to have serious issues with what you believe and what you don't believe, or what you think and what you don't think, how something actually happened, whether it did happen or whether this is just mystical or whatever the case might be. That's where everything jumps off that platform. Not my platform. You can't stand on my platform and jump off your faith if you don't believe like I do. I wouldn't even encourage that. I would say, find your base. Establish your foundation. Know thyself. As the oracle told Neo in the Matrix. Know thyself. And when you are centered and think you know yourself, that's when you can launch. Right? Outside of that, you'll be stuck. Because what we're getting ready to discuss is going to take you to a different place if you believe the way I believe. Whether at my level or higher. If you're not standing on this platform of what I'm getting ready to say, you might find what I'm getting ready to say repulsive. You might have issues. You might doubt. You might have fears and concerns, which is all well and good. Doesn't mean what I'm saying is not true. Because I'm going to be reading straight from the scripture. The last time we were here, we ended talking about thou shalt not murder. Right? As one of the commandments. And I needed to take a detour. I needed to springboard off of this particular command to cause us, to hopefully cause us to understand how serious these words are. When we don't take heed to them, when we don't pay them any mind, we put ourselves in jeopardy. We put our families in jeopardy. We put our communities in jeopardy. We put our cities in jeopardy. We put our states in jeopardy. We put our nations in jeopardy. See where I started it? You put your family first. You put your family in jeopardy. Okay? and splattered across the pages of the biblical narrative, we see people who've put their families in jeopardy. Eli comes to mind. Okay? We read the story of Eli and his two sons, and we understand how Eli didn't exert corrective measures towards his two sons, right? Eli was the high priest at the time. His two sons were first and second in line to be elevated into the high priest position. And his two sons were as ungodly as can be. They were doing things that they ought not to do. They were disobeying the commands, the Levitical order, the Levitical instructions. They were doing whatever they chose to do. As a result of Eli failing to institute corrective measures, even try, his lineage was cut off. Okay? His lineage was cut off. We see Esau. Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of lentils, causing his lineage to be in perpetual disarray. Okay? And we could go on and on and on. We could also go on and on the other side, on the flip side of that. Those people who stood for God, those people who stood for righteousness. Enoch is one, right? Abraham is another. Isaac, Jacob, right? David, so many of them. And of course, the chief himself, Yeshua. So it's not a one-sided show. Everything starts with the platform you stand on. When God spoke to Abram could have said, I don't know who the heck is this? Leaving my father's house? No. My father taking good care of me. Excuse me, I've drunk a few sips of this, didn't ask for excuse. So I'm sorry. Excuse me this one time. Right? But that's not what we read. Abram, God spoke to him, and Abram did exactly what he heard. Right? And as a matter of fact, if we go back into the story, we see Terah, Abram's father. He started the whole ball rolling, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Right? What did Esau do? Esau heard what they was telling Jacob. Go here and marry within the family. What did Esau do? Instead of he saying, okay, they want me to marry within the tribe, I'm going to go and get married within the tribe. He didn't do that. Right? Esau went and married into Ishmael. Esau followed into Ishmael. Right? He's not thinking about his lineage. He's just being rebellious. See what I'm saying? It's being rebellious. So it starts where you at. And I did a series some time ago titled, Where Are You? It starts where you at. So when we talked about murder the last time, we veered off into a sidetrack down this road called murder. And we went back into Genesis 3 to reread, to visualize the first murder. So let's do that. Now remember, the command is, you shall not murder. Right? You shall not take somebody's life. Let's go there. Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4. And I'm going to read from verse 3. We need to venture into this direction because what I want everybody to understand is this. We think we know what is good. We think we know what is right. We think we know what is true, what is just. We have to understand that we do not. In most cases, God is the only one. And as a result, we need to embrace the truth that in order for us to do the right thing, to be righteous, to be upright, we have to embrace God. We have to embrace Jehovah. We have to embrace the Creator. If we do not, or if we halfway or quarter way or three-quarter way do it, we will find ourselves in turmoil, in turbulent times and situations and circumstances. We have to embrace God. And when we do embrace Him, He is going to walk us through, show us, teach us, educate us, build us, help us to stand. Like the psalmist says, make my feet like hinds' feet. Put my feet on a sure foundation. Right. You have enough time. You had enough time. Genesis chapter 4. This is after the birth of Cain, after the birth of Abel. Genesis 4 verse 3 reads as follows. As time passed, Cain brought an offering to Jehovah from the fruit of the ground. Again, many teachers, many people who are in the believing world believe that Cain, this is where he made this mistake, that he didn't bring a good offering. The offering wasn't the correct offering because it was a fruit of the ground. Well, I disagree. Because Cain was a farmer. That's what he did. He worked with his hands planting crops. What better offering to give than an offering that you have spent time and energy and harnessed the goodness of, and now you take that you have harnessed and present it to your Creator. I know y'all ain't gonna like that, but again, how did Cain know that he could take an offering to God? That's the other question. We nowhere before that we heard God say, bring me offerings and sacrifices. Right? And again, I will also say this. Not because it's not written here or before means it didn't exist, right? And I know Nehemiah, Gordon, and others believe that God, he unveiled things over a period of time. Well, I believe if God was there in the beginning, everything was there in the beginning, right? Everything he wants you to do, it's all there. You know it because it's in you. How does that 1-year-old child know to say no? How does a 2-year-old child know to say no? How do they know to say no? How do they know to make a fuss to get something they want? How do they know? How do they know what they want is good for them or is bad for them? How do they know? So there are things that's in us that we don't even realize that's in us. And I'll leave it there. No hard feelings. I'm just saying, that's how I see it. When I think about who God is, and when I think about how God speaks, I believe the man and the woman, they knew exactly what they were supposed to do because God put it in them. Their challenge was, can we obey the way Yeshua obeyed? Can we obey to the point of death, even the death of the stake? Can we do that? And they showed they couldn't. They failed. And I'm going to leave it there. As time passed, Cain brought an offering to Jehovah from the fruit of the ground. Abel also brought some of the firstborn of his flock and of its fat. And Jehovah respected Abel and his offering. Now remember, we don't know what kind of offering these were. We know that there are different kinds of offerings. There are peace offerings, there are thanksgiving offerings, right? There are sin offerings, right? There's a few kinds of offerings. It doesn't say what kind of offering. We also know in the book of Leviticus that you can offer grain, which is fruit of the ground. You can offer birds and sundry items as offerings to God. Okay? So don't tell me that Cain offered an offering and something was wrong with the offering. Listen, we are going to read it. Hold your horses. Don't touch that dial. Listen for a few more seconds. So Cain brought his offering from out of what he did. Abel brought his offering from what he did. Verse 5. But he did not respect Cain and his offering. Cain was very angry, and the expression on his face fell. Now, I am going to submit to you that right there is the crux of the matter. What is Cain angry about? The scripture doesn't say. Okay? The scripture doesn't say. Paul in Ephesians, somewhere in Ephesians says, be angry, but sin not. So God understands that, okay, we all get angry, but that's not the issue. The issue is When you're angry, what do you do? So, here comes the conversation from the lips of God. See, we have to pay attention. Cain gets upset, doesn't say why, but he gets pissed off. And how does God know? As if God needs a sign. But the writer is making it clear. When you're angry, it shows. It shows. You can't hide it. Can't really hide it. When you're angry. And I try to hide it. When I'm angry, when I'm disappointed, when I'm hurt, when I'm sad. Because I'm trying to deal with the anger or the sadness or the hurt or whatever it is. And I don't want to, I don't want to retaliate. So I try to internalize it. I try to slow my brain down to try to come to a place of peace. Cain's his countenance fell. Didn't fall on the ground, it fell. His expression fell. And here comes the words of God. Verse 6. Jehovah said to Cain, why are you angry? As if he didn't know. Why has the expression of your face fallen? As if God doesn't know. Now, God is so awesome in that he asks you questions because he wants you to hear the words that are coming out of his mouth. Because if you listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth, maybe perhaps you could get to the bottom of why you angry. Or why you are sad or disappointed or whatever it is. But you have to listen. So it's not that God didn't know why Cain was upset or sad or angry or whatever. But God wanted Cain to be aware. Hey, I know you're angry. You can't hide, man. I'm seeing your face. Look at your face. Don't try to hide it. You have to deal with that. Because he says, what did Paul say? Be angry and sin not. Well, how can you be angry and not sin? If you listen to God, what God says here. God said, verse 7, if you do well, won't your face be lifted up? If you did well, won't you be more excited, in a better place emotionally? And if you didn't do well, okay, but there's something that's coming after you that will cause you to do something you shouldn't do. You have to deal with that. He says, sin crouches at the door and its desire is for you, but you can rule over it, or you are to rule over it. In other words, Cain, if you get down to the bottom of why you upset, what is it that's causing you to be upset? If you dig deep enough and find out why and deal with that issue, you will be okay. In another place, in the gospel we read, think it's Matthew 5. Oh, I wish I can get an amen. Yeshua says, do not think that I have come to destroy the law. I did not come to destroy. I have come to walk it out, to show you how to walk it out, to show you what to do, thereby fulfilling every law. I'm going to show you how to do it. And then he goes on to say, if you bring an offering to the altar, listen, and I know you guys, some of you are not going to want to believe this. Doesn't mean it's not true. If you don't believe it, that's just you. You don't believe it. I believe it. And I believe because I believe it, it puts my faith in a different place to you because you don't believe it. No, I'm not better than you. I'm not better than nobody. I was thinking the other day, you wouldn't like to be in a position to hear the thoughts that I think about myself. Because you would think I'm stupid. Right? But I beat my own self down. I don't need you to beat me down. I do that all on my own. Probably worse than you could. So I am nobody, I'm nothing. But that doesn't take away from the truth. The truth is, this is God. Yeshua said in the gospel, Matthew 5, if you bring your offering to the altar and you have an ought against your brother, here's what Yeshua says. Go, leave your offering at the altar and go make up with your brother. But this is crazy. How does that apply? What are you saying? You got to read the rest of the story. Immediately after God speaks to Cain and tell him, okay, I see you're angry, but I understand this. In that mood you're in, something called sin is trying to break in. If you let him in, if you keep that anger, you will sin. But I'm telling you, Cain, you can overcome it. You can overcome the anger that you have in your heart towards your brother. Wait a second, how you know he had his anger was towards his brother? Keep reading. What happened in this story? He called his brother and told him, let's go in the bushes. And his brother is like, okay, you're my brother, you know. I don't know what's going on in you. I can't see what's in your heart. Maybe I'm naive and stupid. Maybe I'm thinking, like Thor and his brother, his half-brother. Maybe that's how I am. I'm talking about Abel. Maybe that's how Abel was. He's not looking at Cain's demeanor. He's not thinking any ill intent, right? The pure in heart, blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the pure in heart. When you're pure in heart, you can miss certain things. Certain things you don't see because you don't entertain certain thoughts, right? Maybe, just maybe, Abel is saying, okay, bro, I'm going to come with you. We're going to hunt or whatever. And Cain takes Abel into the bushes. And what does Cain do? Kills him. Well, why would you kill your brother? Because you have an ought against him. Because something is going on in you that you just don't want to deal with. It's not the offering, it's your heart. It's what's in your heart. If God wants you to leave your offering at the altar and make up with your brother, then that's what you should do. But again, if we don't believe that, we think that on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday morning, we can take our offerings to the altar and still hold ill feelings against our brothers and sisters. We think so because we believe God, only up to from here to the wall. It's simple. And if you want to go along with what you've been taught in the past, then that's fine by me. I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm just saying to you what the word says. I'm saying to you, if you read the story, you will see the things I'm seeing. Hopefully. Because it's written. Right? And the part I want to get to that we are talking about out of Exodus 20 that has to do with the word, the 10 words, the topic of conversation, and thou shalt not murder. The link is right here. Verse 9, and Jehovah said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? And look at the response, people. Look at the response. It's his brother. And God comes to him and says, where is Abel, your brother? And Cain says, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Wow. 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 He not only just murdered his brother, but now he's lying. He's lying. And having dealt with police officers over a period of time, you know, the police officers, they're well trained. And you think you might be getting away. But lying is a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous habit. And you will hear people consider liars to be murderers. And vice versa. But if you're a liar, it's easy to be a murderer. From the psychological perspective, from the psychological aspects of things. He just killed his brother. And even if it was Adam who came and said, where is Abel? I'm calling him, I can't find him. Where is he? He would have still lied because he had to cover up what he just did. It's the saddest part of humanity. We think we know, and we don't. And we just hate to admit that we don't. We don't know the truth. Sometimes we can't tell the truth. Sometimes we don't want to tell the truth. We just hate to admit these things. Why? Because it makes us look bad. It makes us look less than. It puts us in a precarious position. And what do we decide to do instead? Lie. And what happens? That lie makes us worse. Doesn't make us better. Makes us worse. Look at his response. I don't know. And I am not even his keeper. I ain't his mother or his father. I ain't supposed to be watching everything he does. I don't know where he is. I can imagine him saying it with some attitude. But God knows everything. And God's response to that was, what have you done, stupid? What have you done, you idiot? No, he didn't say that. I'm just putting in that there for effect. What have you done, man? Didn't say that either. What have you done? And I want us to listen to this. The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. This is where we ended last week. And it took us an hour and 12 minutes to get here. The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. Let me say this straight up. We cannot hide from God. It doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter. It's not important. We cannot hide from God. God has said he knows everything. He sees everything. He knows the end from the beginning. He knows. You cannot hide. I cannot hide. No one can hide. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the chief of the chief of the chief of the chief of Interpol. You cannot hide all the things you've done. You cannot hide nothing you've done. You cannot hide. And you will be held accountable for those things. Whether it's good or bad, you will be held accountable. I will be held accountable. We all will. If we don't hear anything at all in this hour and a half or 145, 2-hour session, please hear that. You have to account for everything that you've done. You have to. And you cannot blame somebody else. That is not an excuse. Ask Job. Fascinating, phenomenal, few words. The blood, the voice of your brother's blood. And that's something that we have to pay attention to. If this is the first murder, this is the first time a human being takes another human being's life. And God says, the voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. Do you think that nobody else's blood is crying to God from the ground today? Do you think that as many people who have been killed innocently, guiltily, by accident, deliberately, on purpose, regardless of how they were killed, do you think that God is fully well aware of who these people are, why they were killed, how they were killed, and what he has to do? In this one single case, God says to Cain, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground." And I want us to realize, when God says in Exodus 20, "Thou shalt not murder," why is he telling us don't murder? Why? We have to understand, people. We don't know everything. And we have to take everything we know and consider it itsy bitsy in the eyes of God. We have to. And it doesn't matter who you are. Elon Musk, president, prime minister, governor, mayor, the Einstein, what's the guy in the wheelchair? It doesn't matter how much you know or how little you know, how much you have or how little you have. The most important thing we can do is say to ourselves, all that I know nothing when it compares to who God is. Because God knows what happens in every given moment, for every given thing, good, bad, or indifferent. God knows the end in the very beginning. He knew how things were going to play out from the very beginning. So when people ask the question as if to justify why they don't believe in God, if God exists, why does so much bad things still happen? If God is good, why does so much bad things happen? If there is a God, why does he allow all this evil to take place? He should just come down and wipe everything clean. Well, he did that at one time. Unfortunately, because you don't believe in him, you don't believe he did it. Excuse me. How can you ask these rhetorical questions? How can you ask these questions to justify your position and you know nothing? Because if you knew everything, if you knew as much as you think you say you knew or you know, would you be able to help? Would you be able to do anything? And some people who think they know, trying to do things that they think would help. And in some cases, it's failing. In some cases, it's succeeding. And failure or succession doesn't indicate whether what you're doing is good or bad. Because we think in the believing world, we think that the way we know something is good is because it grows and it becomes big. Well, that's a lie. Because evil is growing and evil is getting bigger and worse. And it's not good. Evil can be good and good can be evil. So, not because a tree is blossoming and growing means it's a good tree. Just look straight at the fig tree in the gospel. And I say that because me and my son had a conversation. I wouldn't say an argument. We had a conversation over this fig tree. Because we were studying one night and I read that parable. I read the story of Yeshua, who was the writer clearly says they were walking and traveling and he was hungry. The writer clearly says Yeshua was hungry. And while he was hungry, he came up on a fig tree. And because he was hungry, he came up on a fig tree. What do? You think the fig tree should provide you figs. But the fig tree had no figs. The writer even expressed that it was a time for figs to bear figs. This is Yeshua. This is the Word of God in the flesh. This is God walking on the face of the earth. Right? And God commanded the trees to bring forth fruit in their season. Am I right? Here is God standing in front of the fig tree, and God is hungry. Listen to the rhetoric of this story. And the figs cannot supply, what's the word I'm looking for? The figs cannot satisfy the hunger of its master. So what does the master do? The master curses the fig tree. The master curses the fig tree and leaves. And then on their way back, the writer says, on their way back, the disciples saw that the fig tree was dead. And my son, my older son, because I have two older, says to me, why God had to curse the fig tree? Because my son loves nature. I'm not poking fun at the nature lovers, okay? But there's an irony here. You can't love nature more than you love God. Or, let me say it this way. If you love nature more than you love God, then nature becomes your God. And my son was upset because the fig tree died. And because he was a nature lover, he felt that was unjust. So I told my son, why do you say that it's unjust? How can you say that it's unjust? That's like we telling God what to do and what not to do, how to rule and how not to rule. That's like the tail telling the dog where to go, what to do, and when to wag. And the old folks would say, that's like the tail wagging the dog. The tail is here, and the dog is here, and the tail is doing the dog like that. And the dog with the four legs is dragging all over the ground, can't stand up straight because the tail is wagging the dog. That's like the old folks used to say, we put the horse behind the carriage and tell the carriage to pull the horse. That's like Paul saying to the people in Romans chapter 9 who says, well, if God knows that we will do evil, why is he yet upset when we do evil? And Paul's answer was, who are you, man, to talk back to God? See, we human beings have this idea in our head that we know what's good and what's not good, that we know it all. I was looking at flipping through the channels yesterday, and I looked at one of my favorite shows. It's become one of my favorite shows. Game of Thrones. And I looked at season 7. I think it was episode, I can't remember, the free episodes they had. They had a list of free episodes. That's the one I looked at. Dragonstone. That was the title of that episode, Dragonstone. I think it was when Daenerys finally got to Dragonstone. And I'm saying that just as a side note, but I'm saying that to say that in that show, Daenerys, who's claimed to be the Queen of Dragons and the Queen of the Seven Andals and Queen of whatever, and she insists everybody must bend the knee because she knows what's best, because she has in her mind a world that she wants to create, and she has to assert herself as the queen, or she has to become the queen of these 7 kingdoms so that she can rule uprightly, which is all well and good, right? Which is all well and good. And all through the series, all through the Game of Thrones series, she portrayed herself as this person who wants to create a good world. She wants to create a good world. And as I said in the beginning, there are a lot of people who have this ideal. But you cannot create a good world if you don't see how evil you are. And if you don't honor your Father, your Heavenly Father, if you don't take the weight off of your shoulder and put it on His, in honoring Him, in obeying Him, in trying to respond to the things that He says the way He wants you to respond. See, what we do is we take the responsibility of creating a good world on our shoulders, and we take the honor for ourselves. And so what we do is we go about this creation of this good world our own way. And you know the song says, you can go your own way. And that's what we've done. From Genesis to Revelation, we have gone our own way. And unless he who was here comes back and establishes his way, everything we do here is going to be done according to how we see it, if we don't line up to the way he sees it. What am I saying? If we want to create a good world, we have to first lay our burdens down, like Yeshua said. Take up his yoke. What was his yoke? This is something that I've thought about for years. When he said, take my yoke upon him and learn of me, what does he mean? Take my yoke. What yoke did he have? And it has finally dawned on me that the yoke that he had was a yoke of obedience. See, as Philippians well put it, as Paul well put it in the book of Philippians, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ, or also in Yeshua the Messiah, who did not think equality with God was something to be grasped. See, Yeshua didn't hold himself being equal to God, even though that he was. He didn't look at that equality as something to be proud of, something to hold on to. See, this is what Paul was explaining. And so what he did was he submitted himself. So him and God is here. He is the Word. The Word is with God, and the Word is God. So him and God is here. And what the Word did, what Yeshua did was subordinated himself, submitted himself to God. So he became below. And then further submitted himself and became a servant of the higher thing that God made, which was mankind. Submitted himself to mankind and became a servant to man, right? And so when he did that, that yoke is what he's talking about. That's why he said, I didn't come to be served, I came to serve. And that's the yoke that he took on. The yoke of obedience, even unto death, the death of the cross. And so when he says, come unto me, all those who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me and find rest for your souls. In other words, the yoke that we are to bear is not a yoke of creation. It's not a yoke of making the next person righteous. The yoke that we all have to bear, each individually, is a yoke to become righteous through obedience to him who is over us. See? And that's when he says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Well, why If that yoke is such a heavy yoke, why is it now become because my yoke is easy and my burden is light? Why is the weight light? Why is the yoke not burdensome? Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's not my job to make you a believer. It's not my job to change your life. That's your job. My job is to stand on my faith and try to build my faith, to contend for my faith in Him, to be obedient to Him even unto death, the death of the cross. Because if I understand correctly, when I obey Him even unto death, the death of the cross, He sees that He is going to resurrect me because of that. Because I didn't do it my way. I emulated Him who did it His way. I walked the way He walked according to the way He commanded it. See, Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and Jesus was teaching. And so Mary was listening. She's being very attentive. And Martha was doing all the work, serving everybody and taking care of everybody. And Martha complained that she's doing all the work and Mary is just there sitting. But I believe a complaint comes from a certain part of a personality. You complain because you are dissatisfied about something. And so you complain. See, Cain, his issue wasn't what he brought to the offering. His issue was Abel. There was something in his heart against Abel. So when God reprimanded him and his offering, when God didn't show no respect to his offering, Cain was pissed off. Not because God showed him disrespect for his offering. He was already upset at his brother. That God did just added fuel to the fire, or just fanned the flames of his anger that was in his heart. And so when God talked to him to try to calm him down, to try to open his eyes, he didn't want to listen. And he held on to that anger. And then that anger turned him into a murderer. See? So it's not the offering, it's the heart. That's why God says, I don't look at your offering. I don't care nothing about your offering. You could bring all the perfect bulls and cows and sheep and all the fine grain and whatever, all the good bread and all that good stuff. You could bring all of that. But if your heart ain't right, I ain't going to see that. I ain't looking at it. I don't care for it. So it's not the offering. God is not interested in your offering. God is interested in your heart. And if you're not interested in your heart, then you could be in a lot of trouble. So Martha was complaining, not because she was doing all the work. Because if you're a servant, that should be your joy. If you love to do what you're doing, it will show on your face. If you hate what you're doing, it will also show on your face or in your work, in how you do what you do. Right? And so when she complains, what did Yeshua say? Why are you mad? Because of her. She chose the better thing to do. She chose the better thing. So if your heart was in a better place, maybe you would have been able to see this is the better thing. Yes, I'm a servant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve and come and sit down, spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, go back and serve. Because not everybody has a desire to serve, right? Some people like to be served. And that's not necessarily like evil. All depends on your personality and how you go about, right? Because a king, if you're a king, then you expect to be served, right? But it's how you do. Are you a servant? Do you serve the people of your kingdom? Are you a good king? Are you serving them that way? Because you can serve not just by giving plates and sandwiches and cups of juice. See? So he says, come unto me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and you will find rest for your soul. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because who's really carrying the burden is the Father. And if you understand that you have an advocate with the Father, you wouldn't carry the burden also. He is carrying the burden. So what you have done is taking the burden off of your shoulders and put it on his. It's all over the gospel narrative. But your job is not to convert others. Yeah, he said go into the world and make disciples. But you can't make nothing. All you could do is talk. All you have to do is walk. And all you have to do is be and become. Talk your voice, use your words, speak like he did. Right? Speak like he did because he baffled everybody when he spoke. Walk like he walked. You help, you serve, you minister, you pray, you heal, you deliver, you set free. Walk like he did. You be as he is. He is the Son of God, and so are you. You are a son, not the son. You are a son. You're not God himself. You are a son. Romans says, all of creation eagerly awaits the manifestation, the uncovering, the revelation of the sons of God, of the children. Where they are, where are they? Where are they? You think you are one? Really? Where are they? And as many of us who think we are not. And so creation waits. So be as he was, and then we have to become better than we are. Become better every day. We have to grow into that which we will be by becoming every day. And I haven't even gone into the whole gambit about blood and the ground and what blood do to the ground, all that stuff. I'll leave that for next week. I hope that something was said that caught your attention, that you would spend time on regurgitating, replaying in your heart and in your mind. And I pray that God would use whatever it is that was heard for your edification, for your building up, for your being and for your becoming. In closing, as we always do, we go to Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27, in what we read and what we call and what we deem to be an Aaronic blessing, or the Aaronic blessing. The Aaronic blessing. It's something that the high priest and his sons were commanded to speak over the children of Israel, over the people of God. That way, they put the name, God's name, on the people of God. And so when God looks down and he sees his name, he's going to bless Tom, Dick, and Harry. Number 6, verses 22 through 27 reads as follows. And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is how you shall bless the children of Israel. You shall tell them, Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his countenance towards you and give you peace. So they shall put my name, or I should read this like, so, or that is how, they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Until next time, Shavua Tov, Shabbat Shalom, Arrivederci, adios, buenos dias, buenos tardes, buenos noches, deuces, peace, bye, buen nuit, I'm out.